There was a moment where I looked at myself and I didn't recognize who I had become. I was miserable, exhausted. I couldn't enjoy anything. I felt lost and broken on the inside. And I remember sitting with that feeling and asking myself, why am I letting this happen to me? That was the moment everything changed. Today, I want to tell you the honest story of what loving an avoidant actually did to me. Not the highlight reel, not just the happy ending, the real version, because I think you need to hear it. And at the end, I'm going to give you my honest answer to the question everyone in the situation eventually asks: is it worth it? Hi, guys, I'm Carolina, and I run this YouTube channel with my formerly avoidant husband, Gabriel. Our relationship had lots of ups and downs, but eventually I did find my happy end. When it comes to being with avoidance, people tend to jump between extremes. They go from loving them and doing everything in their power to make things work to feeling upset and wanting to walk away and not look back. In this video, I want to tell you about my own version of this emotional roller coaster to help you gain clarity and reach a conclusion about your own situation. Let's start at the very beginning. When I met Gabriel, I was completely love struck. I felt like I had finally found someone who could actually see me. We clicked, we understood each other. At the same time, our chemistry was out of this world. It didn't feel like an exciting fling. Our connection felt more real, more grounded, and meaningful. I never felt this way before. He made a lot of effort to win me over. I could see he was trying to impress me, and I rewarded it. We had fun. Our relationship was unfolding pretty fast, and for the first time in my life, I wanted to plan a future with someone. But at some point, something changed. He didn't do anything dramatic. There was no big fight, no obvious moment I could point to. He just became less enthusiastic, started making less effort. Where he had been charming, present, and pursuing me in the beginning, he was now relating to me more like a buddy. And I didn't know what that meant. My anxiety kicked in immediately, and the fear wasn't just, is he losing interest? It went much deeper than that. I started to wonder, was any of it even real? Was the beginning just a performance? Did he ever actually love me? Doubt started creeping in, but initially I just dismissed them. I tried just going with the flow without thinking or even talking too much about this new development. What followed was one of the hardest periods of my life. We broke up. Gabriel was saying he didn't know what he wanted, that he wasn't ready to commit. Then he came back. Then he broke up with me again. Then came the moment that confused me the most: my birthday. I was in Greece. I was doing a placement in a research institute in the middle of nowhere, not where the tourists go. I was in a small town up north, surrounded by fields and pastures. Gabriel flew from Austria, just showed up to surprise me. He was very sneaky. He got me to share my exact location with him weeks prior and then made this whole plan. He first flew, then had to take a regional bus, and even walked the last kilometers. He just strolled into my room saying, "Surprise!" I really didn't expect it, especially since we were supposedly broken up at the time. It was one of the most romantic things anyone had ever done for me. So I was shocked, confused, but also really touched by his gesture and the effort it required. And then, shortly after, he broke up with me again. I want you to sit with what I've shared for a second, because that's not just an avoidant pulling back a little. That's a roller coaster that would shake anyone's grip on reality. One moment, you're the most special person in the world to them. The next, they're gone again. I kept searching for reassurance. I needed clarity from him. I needed to know where he stood. But here's what I eventually understood: he couldn't give me that, not because he didn't want to, but because he didn't have it himself. He was asking himself the same questions I was asking him. During my time in Greece, I realized that this roller coaster started to take a real toll on me. I stopped being able to enjoy things. I was constantly waiting, constantly bracing, constantly trying to read the signals and figure out where we stood. I felt broken on the inside in a way I had never felt before. And I remember the moment I finally looked at myself clearly. and thought, this is crazy. This was the turning point, not a conversation with him, a conversation with myself. I made a decision, not a dramatic one, just a quiet, exhausted conclusion. I decided I needed to change something. I had been so consumed by Gabriel, where he was at, what he was feeling, what he wanted, whether he would stay or go. The chase had become everything, and I want to be honest about what that chase actually was, because I don't think chasing quite captures it. It was more like an obsession. It was intoxicating and addictive, and I couldn't stop even when I could see it was hurting me. Because underneath it was just this desperate belief that if I tried hard enough, loved hard enough, figured out the right thing to say or do, I could make it work. And then one day I understood something about him and about us. I couldn't make it work all by myself, no matter how hard I tried. He was his own person, and if he chose to go, there was nothing I could do about it. I couldn't keep him. I couldn't will him into staying. That's not how it works with anyone, but especially not with someone who is still figuring out whether he can let himself be loved. So I let go. And I want to tell you what that felt like because it wasn't what I expected. It felt like grief and peace at the same time. Grief because I wasn't just letting go of Gabriel, I was letting go of a whole future I had imagined and hoped for, a life I had already built in my head. That loss was real and it hurt, but also peace, because I was finally putting down something that had been crushing me. When I stopped looking outward and looked inward instead, I didn't find clarity waiting for me there. I found someone I barely recognized. I had lost myself so completely in the chase that I didn't know who I was anymore outside of it. And that was the moment the real work began. Not fixing things with Gabriel, finding my way back to myself, discovering what I wanted, what I cared about, what drove me, things that had nothing to do with him. That's where the healing actually started. Funnily enough, when I stopped chasing, he came back and never left again. The future I gave up on, well, I'm living it now. I can laugh about the irony of it all now, but at the time it was not funny at all. So, are avoidance worth it? Here is what I actually believe. The idea that love should be easy, that if it's right, it just flows, that's a myth. Everyone carries wounds, everyone has trauma, and we can't help but hurt the people we love, mostly without meaning to. That's not a flaw in love. That's what love actually is. Avoidance are right to fear it. Love is scary. It requires you to be seen, to be vulnerable, to risk being left. Of course, that's terrifying, especially if you learn that closeness leads to pain. I don't blame Gabriel for being afraid. Understanding that made it possible for me to stop taking it personally. But here's why it can still be worth it. Healing doesn't happen in isolation. You can read every book, do every journaling exercise, go to every therapy session. And there are things that will only change when you actually experience being loved and accepted by another person. That's where attachment wounds live, and that's where they heal in relationships, in the mess of it. But, and this matters, only if you allow yourself to receive love and only if you dare to have boundaries, to know when enough is enough, to protect yourself when you need to. Sometimes that means you heal together. You do the hard work. You grow alongside each other. You build something real out of the chaos. That's what happened for Gabriel and me. And sometimes healing means letting go, recognizing that you deserve more than what this relationship is giving you, and having the courage to walk away. That is not failure, that is also growth. But I want to be honest about one more thing. Not every avoidant is worth it. Not every avoidant wants to do the work or build something real. And the same is true on the other side. Not every anxious person actually wants to heal. Sometimes what feels like love is really just a pattern, a familiar pull towards something that hurts in a way that feels like home. Because here's what I learned the hard way: who you fall in love with and what you choose to put up with has a lot more to do with you than it does with your partner. As long as you keep on looking for the solution outside of yourself, trying to fix them, change them, chase them, convince them, you will keep getting burned over and over again because the real question was never, is he or she worth it? The real question is, why? Why does someone who keeps pulling away feel so impossible to let go of? Why does rejection make you chase harder instead of walking away? What is it about this dynamic that feels so familiar? That's the question worth sitting with. And when you can answer it honestly, that's when you can finally move past it. Because that's what the journey is really for. Not the pain, not the chaos, not the endless cycle of chasing and losing and chasing again. All of that is just a path to something much more important: understanding yourself well enough to finally let real love in. One that doesn't keep on letting you down, making you second guess yourself, or feel unimportant. When you do the work, something changes. You stop attracting the same dynamic over and over. You stop excusing behaviors that are not okay and putting other people's needs above your own. You start to recognize what real safety feels like, and more importantly, you start to believe you deserve it. I know this because I lived it. When I finally found my own steadiness, when I stopped being consumed by uncertainty about Gabriel and about us, something unexpected happened. His uncertainty started to fade too. It was like day and night because my anxiety had been feeding the very thing I was most afraid of. And when I stopped, so did he. That's what becomes possible on the other side of this: actual stability, actual security, a relationship where you don't have to brace yourself, where you don't have to chase or convince or perform, where you feel chosen, supported, cared for, and protected with someone who isn't perfect. Not a relationship without conflict, but without that constant undercurrent of impending abandonment. That's what's waiting for you, whether you get there with your avoidant partner or with someone new. The point of the journey was always this: to heal enough to finally have what you actually want. That's my honest answer. And only you can find yours. If you're somewhere in the middle of this right now, if you recognize yourself in any part of what I just described, I want you to know you're not alone. And you're not crazy for staying, and you're not weak if you're considering leaving. If you want support figuring out what the right path is for you, Gabriel and I work with people in exactly this situation. The link to find out more is below. And if this video resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'll see you in the next one.